Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm excited to have you here today. We're about to dive into a fascinating topic, navigating the complexity of Microsoft Fabric administration. On this slide, you'll see the main title, and the subtitle highlights the key areas we'll explore, understanding domains, governance, and capacity management in this new era of unified analytics. Over the course of this presentation, we'll cover how to effectively manage these aspects to ensure smooth operation and maximum value from Microsoft Fabric. So, let's get started. Welcome to our discussion on navigating the complexity of Microsoft Fabric administration. As we move into this new era, it's important to recognize that transitioning to Fabric requires administrators to rethink their traditional approaches. Operational discipline becomes more critical than ever in managing this sophisticated system. Additionally, governance strategies must evolve to keep pace with the demands of this complex environment. Despite promises of simplification, the reality is that there's a steep learning curve involved. Administrators will encounter a significant increase in the complexity of their tasks, which means developing new governance strategies is essential. Managing domains, capacities, and tenant configurations can feel like solving a complex puzzle, demanding a higher level of operational discipline. Microsoft Fabric represents a major shift from what many of us are used to with Power by Premium. This transition broadens the scope of administrative responsibilities and ushers in a new era of data management and analytics. So, as we explore this slide, keep in mind that understanding and mastering these complexities is key to successfully leveraging the full potential of Fabric. Let's take a closer look at the idea of domains in Fabric and the illusion of simplicity they seem to present. On the surface, domains are designed to make organizational management more straightforward, but the reality is often more complex. When we dig beneath the surface, we find that these seemingly simple containers can hide underlying conflicts and challenges. Organizations frequently find themselves in firefighting mode, trying to resolve issues that stem from domain-related complexities. This is why strict governance becomes so critical. It helps prevent these complexities from spiraling out of control and causing bigger problems down the line. Now, it's important to understand that domains aren't just renamed workspaces. They introduce new layers of ownership, policies, and permissions. While these layers can help organize things better, they can also escalate into chaos if not properly managed. Without proper governance, the complexity can quickly get out of hand. Despite the promise of simplicity, domains often lead to sprawl. As organizations create more domains to categorize different functions or departments, the complexity grows. This proliferation can be misleading because it's masked by the new labels, but in reality, it can overwhelm teams if they don't have effective management strategies in place. Microsoft presents domains as logical containers that are supposed to simplify organizational structure. They're marketed as tools to assign specific areas, like HR or finance, making operations clearer and more streamlined. The idea is to enhance clarity and efficiency, but as we see, the reality can be quite different without careful governance. Let's dive into understanding domain ownership and permissions within Microsoft Fabric administration. Establishing clear escalation paths is absolutely essential to prevent us from getting caught in a cycle of constant support issues. These paths help ensure that governance problems are addressed quickly and effectively. When we have a structured approach, it minimizes disruptions and makes the entire process much clearer for everyone involved. Now, why is this so important? Well, the complexity of domain policies makes it crucial to assign clear ownership. Without that, support teams may find themselves repeatedly escalated into support because there's no clear who to turn to. Defining roles helps us manage domain governance more efficiently and reduces confusion. Speaking of confusion, it's also vital to understand that domain-level roles and policies can sometimes override workspace permissions. This can lead to tricky situations, like users being unable to publish in their own workspace, which obviously hampers productivity. Knowing how these overrides work is key to keeping things running smoothly. Another common challenge is governance clashes, especially when different teams have varying views on how domains should be used. These disagreements often stem from conflicting interpretations of the domain's purpose. To resolve this, we need clear communication and alignment on policies across teams. Finally, each domain in Fabric can have its own unique quirks when it comes to ownership and policies. Some teams might see the same domain as a sandbox environment, while others might view it as a secure data vault. This variability can easily lead to governance clashes if we're not careful. Recognizing these differences and managing them effectively is critical for maintaining a coherent governance framework. As we move to Slide 5, let's explore the expanding scope of domains within Microsoft Fabric administration. The broad range of domains we now manage significantly complicates governance. With more areas to oversee, resource allocation becomes a critical issue, ensuring the right people and tools are focused where they're needed most. Effective management, therefore, requires us to confront these complexities directly and strategically. Another challenge arises from the lack of clear boundaries. When boundaries aren't well-defined, dominant data owners can sometimes overshadow others, making governance within the same domain more difficult. This situation complicates resource management and hampers collaboration. Within a single domain, we also see a diverse set of use cases. For example, one team might use a domain for a campaign dashboard, while another might store terabytes of logs from a data engineer. This variety underscores the importance of clear organization and boundaries to keep things manageable. Finally, the definition of what constitutes a domain has broadened significantly. It's no longer just about reports. It now includes staging pipelines, raw data ingestion, models, and even miscellaneous file dumps. This expanded scope truly reflects the growing complexity of our data ecosystems and highlights the need for thoughtful governance and management across all these different components. Navigating the complexity of Microsoft Fabric administration can be quite challenging, especially when it comes to permission management within domains. One key point to understand is that domain-level policies add a layer of complexity. They don't just sit alongside workspace roles, they can actually override them. This means that admins need to be very careful when balancing both domain and workspace settings to ensure proper access control. Admin navigation becomes more complicated because permissions are layered, and if not managed properly, it can lead to user frustration. Support teams, in particular, might find themselves overwhelmed by permission-related issues that are tricky to troubleshoot. This complexity also impacts the user experience. Domain configurations can create confusing scenarios where restrictions are hidden deep within settings, making it difficult for users to understand what they can or cannot do. Keeping things transparent is a real challenge here. Finally, as workspace roles evolve, the traditional labels like viewer, contributor, or admin are no longer sufficient. Domains introduce additional layers, domain-level roles and policies, that can override workspace settings. This layered approach creates new challenges for both admins and users, emphasizing the need for a clear understanding of how these different levels interact. All of these points highlight why managing permissions in Microsoft Fabric requires a careful, strategic approach. It's essential for maintaining security, usability, and overall user satisfaction. Let's explore the garage analogy to understand the importance of structured organization. Think of your garage as a shared space. Without proper rules, it can quickly become a chaotic mess. This highlights why governance is crucial early on. If we neglect it, the space can turn into a dumping ground for uncoordinated junk, making it difficult to find what we need and maintain order. In the context of Microsoft Fabric, think of Fabric domains like sections of that garage. They require the same kind of attention to keep everything running smoothly and efficiently. Locking down governance early is like setting up designated zones and rules from the start. This prevents chaos from taking hold later on. Proactively establishing governance measures ensures that, over time, the system remains orderly and functional. Without this, the domains can become cluttered and disorganized, similar to an uncontrolled garage. Imagine organizing your garage into zones for tools, bikes, and boxes. Initially, it feels orderly. But once neighbors start dumping their junk in your space, it begins to feel out of control. Similarly, in fabric, domains might seem neat at first, but if you don't enforce rules, they can become a chaotic mess. So, the key takeaway is that early governance is essential. It creates the foundation for long-term order, prevents disorder, and helps maintain efficiency across your shared spaces and domains. Let's talk about the initial steps to control domain sprawl and navigate the complexity of Microsoft Fabric administration. First, structured scaffolding is crucial. It helps us avoid months of repermissioning and miscommunication, ensuring that collaboration across departments runs smoothly. By taking this proactive approach, we actually save time and resources in the long run. Next, preventing cross-departmental confusion is essential. We recommend piloting naming conventions and policies with one team first. This allows us to make adjustments before rolling out across the entire tenant, which keeps everything consistent and avoids future renaming issues. Enforcing naming conventions is another key point. We should designate one team to handle structuring domains and another to enforce policies. Having clear ownership and escalation paths means everyone knows where to go with issues, streamlining decision-making and accountability. Finally, it's important to assign a single ownership with a clear escalation path. Decide whether domains represent departments, projects, or purposes. This clarity keeps everyone aligned. A well-defined taxonomy prevents confusion and redundancy, making sure we're all on the same page moving forward. Let's take a closer look at some warning signs of domain misconfiguration in Microsoft Fabric. Recognizing these signs early is crucial because ignoring them can lead to domain sprawl and the development of silos within your environment. When these issues are left unaddressed, remediation becomes more complicated and costly, making it harder to maintain control over your data landscape. That's why early intervention is so important, to prevent governance challenges from escalating and becoming unmanageable. Now, moving on to publishing errors. When users report mysterious issues with publishing, it's often a sign that there are deeper domain policy problems at play. These errors usually don't resolve themselves. They typically require a thorough investigation into domain configurations to identify the root cause. By proactively addressing these policies up front, you can save a lot of time and reduce frustration for everyone involved. Next, let's discuss unknown data owners. When there are entities holding keys to sensitive data without clear ownership, it creates significant security risks. Without accountability, data can be accessed or shared inappropriately, which could lead to breaches. Establishing clear ownership for all data assets is essential to maintaining data integrity and ensuring proper governance. Finally, identifying duplicate domains is another key aspect. When you see multiple similar domains like sales, sales reporting, and sales 2025, it often indicates underlying governance issues. These duplications can confuse users and dilute the focus of your domain management efforts. Addressing these overlaps early on helps prevent inefficiencies from building up over time and keeps your environment organized and manageable. In summary, paying attention to these warning signs and addressing them promptly is vital for effective Microsoft Fabric administration. It keeps your environment clean, secure, and efficient as you scale. Now, let's look at the evolving landscape of workspace architecture, which I like to think of as moving from Lego to Jenga. As these environments grow more complex, managing them becomes increasingly challenging. You see, modern Fabric workspaces are now multi-layered, much like a Jenga tower, with different components stacked and intertwined. Lakehouses, warehouses, notebooks, they're all mixed together in this intricate structure. And to make things even more complex, pipelines and dashboards are layered in, adding more depth and interconnections. This complexity requires us to rethink how we govern these environments. Traditional models no longer suffice. Instead, we need new governance approaches that can ensure stability amid this complexity. Now, if we compare this to Power by Workspaces from the past, They were much simpler, more like Lego blocks. You'd have just a few reports and a dataset, and that was enough to keep things manageable. The structure was straightforward, making governance easy and direct. So the key takeaway here is that we've moved from a Lego-like simplicity to a Jenga-like complexity. Understanding this shift helps us grasp why new governance models are essential to keep everything running smoothly in today's more sophisticated workspace environments. Navigating the complexity of Microsoft Fabric administration can be quite challenging, especially when it comes to mixed workspace usage. One of the biggest issues we face is collaboration breakdowns. When analysts and engineers aren't clear about their workspace roles, confusion quickly sets in. This misalignment makes teamwork difficult and hampers our ability to work efficiently together. Without a well-defined structure, coordinating tasks becomes a real hurdle, slowing down progress. Performance challenges are also a major concern. When workspaces aren't organized properly, we see performance degradation. Processes tend to overlap, resources get contended, and this slows down operations significantly. Ultimately, this impacts the responsiveness and reliability of our entire system, which is something we definitely want to avoid. Another critical issue is the impact on data reliability. Treating Fabric workspaces like old Power BI folders creates chaos. It leads to inconsistent data outputs, which undermines trust in our system's accuracy. The lack of proper workspace management only makes this worse, fueling the cycle of unreliability. Finally, role ambiguity within workspaces is a big problem. When we mix ingestion, staging, analysis, and experimentation in the same workspace without clear roles, it can cause data to be pulled from the wrong sources. This confusion often results in pipelines overwriting each other, creating operational inefficiencies. The end result is a lot of wasted time, and it hampers both productivity and our ability to make informed decisions. All of these challenges highlight why clear structure and defined roles are crucial for effective Microsoft Fabric administration. Otherwise, the system becomes more chaotic, and our ability to leverage its full potential is compromised. Let's talk about some key design principles for creating sustainable workspaces. First, it's crucial to lock in owners, tags, and naming conventions right from the start. Setting these standards early helps ensure consistency and clarity as your environment grows. Automation plays a big role here. By automating tasks, we can significantly reduce human error and boost efficiency. This approach not only makes management smoother, but also guarantees predictable performance over time. Using templates to automate processes is another powerful strategy. Consistent tagging, think of using tags like versus sales stage, helps us categorize and manage data effectively. Additionally, assigning ownership with expiry checks promotes accountability, making sure responsibilities are clear and up to date. Policies around naming and lifecycle management are essential as well. Enforcing strict naming conventions and lifecycle policies helps keep the workspace organized and reduces confusion. It's especially important to distinguish between different types of workspaces: staging, production, and analytics. Keeping these separate ensures clarity, minimizes operational risks, and supports a sustainable, scalable environment. Overall, by separating workspaces by function, we lay a strong foundation for ongoing manageability and growth. This structured approach aligns perfectly with our goal of building efficient, reliable, and sustainable workspaces in Microsoft Fabric. Let's take a moment to consider some sanity checks for our workspace architecture. One of the first things to ask is whether warehouses and pipelines follow naming conventions that are recognizable, even to someone who might be new to the project. Clear naming conventions are essential because they make collaboration smoother and help us scale more effectively. If names are inconsistent or unclear, it can create confusion, hinder understanding, and complicate governance. So, establishing consistent naming standards is a key step toward maintaining clarity as our environment grows. Next, we need to think about the risks of accidental data overwrites. Specifically, can experimenters unintentionally overwrite production datasets? Preventing these kinds of mistakes is crucial for protecting our data integrity. Without proper safeguards, there's a real risk that the design of our workspace could accidentally compromise critical production data, which could have serious impacts downstream. Finally, it's important to consider whether production reports are kept separate from experimental data. This separation ensures that experimental work doesn't interfere with or distort production-level reporting. If we don't maintain this separation, we might face governance issues or produce unreliable insights, which undermines trust in our data and decisions. Overall, these sanity checks, naming conventions, safeguards against overwrites, and separation of reports are fundamental to building a robust, scalable, and trustworthy workspace architecture. Navigating the complexity of Microsoft Fabric administration requires understanding how users need to adapt to the shared capacity model. This shift from dedicated to pooled resources means that capacity isn't reserved for individual workloads anymore. Instead, it's shared across reports, warehouses, pipelines, and notebooks, which can significantly impact performance. Understanding these trade-offs is essential for optimizing how we run our workloads. For instance, if workloads are unmanaged, we might experience unexpected slowdowns because multiple processes are competing for the same resources. This highlights the importance of careful capacity management to prevent performance issues. Compared to the traditional power by premium model, Fabric's shared capacity is a fundamental change. Instead of having dedicated horsepower for each report, everything now shares the same compute pool. Think of it as a big buffet. Resources are pooled together, and workloads must compete for capacity. This shift is why Fabric capacities are no longer the same as premium. What was once a dedicated resource now functions more like a shared environment. So, managing and understanding this shared capacity model is crucial for maintaining good performance and making the most of what Fabric offers. Managing compute capacity in Fabric is all about navigating the complexity of Microsoft Fabric administration. One of the key points here is that collaboration with the finance team is essential. We need to align our budgeting with the actual compute consumption to ensure our financial resources are allocated efficiently. This alignment helps us meet the demands of our compute workloads without overspending, which is crucial for sustainable capacity management. Next, after migration, conducting triage audits is vital. These audits allow us to capture peak usage patterns, so we can set up alerts for sudden capacity drains. Being proactive in this way helps us maintain system stability and avoid unexpected disruptions that could impact our users. When it comes to experimental and learning workloads, it's best to direct them to shared or budget-limited pools. This way, we prevent these less critical workloads from consuming resources that are needed for more important tasks. It's a smart approach to manage costs while still fostering innovation and experimentation. Finally, effective capacity management begins with identifying our critical workloads, things like executive dashboards that need to run smoothly at all times. These workloads should be given dedicated capacity, so they're not starved by background jobs or less important tasks. This ensures that our most vital reports and dashboards remain reliable and perform consistently, which is key to supporting our overall business objectives. Let's take a closer look at tenant configurations and the hidden risks they pose. As we've discussed, Fabric's tenant-level settings add a layer of complexity to governance. These settings make it more challenging to enforce policies consistently across the organization. With the expanded range of user actions now available, it becomes even harder to control what users can do, increasing the risk of policy violations. Organizations need to be proactive in addressing these challenges to effectively mitigate potential risks. One of the most concerning issues here is the threat of silent breakers. These are unauthorized or unintended actions that can undo years of policy work overnight. These risks are often hidden within tenant-level configurations and can undermine organizational stability and governance. Now, looking at the impact of these silent breakers, defaults in Fabric typically favor self-service. This means users can create resources outside of governance controls, which can lead to compliance breaches or unexpected costs. Uncontrolled cost spikes are another consequence of these default settings, which organizations need to be aware of. Unlike Power BI, which has more limited controls, Fabric introduces toggles for various resources like warehouses, lakehouses, notebooks, and pipelines. This expansion greatly broadens what users can do, creating potential vulnerabilities that organizations must manage carefully. In summary, tenant-level settings in Fabric introduce new risks that require careful governance strategies. Understanding these risks is crucial as we navigate the complex landscape of Fabric administration and aim to keep our environment secure and compliant. Now, let's talk about the importance of auditing and locking down tenant configurations. First, it's crucial to pilot changes with a subset of users or test tenants and log all modifications. This way, we can test new configurations in a controlled environment and have a safety net to revert any changes if issues arise. It's all about minimizing risk during the rollout process. Next, we want to enforce sensitivity labeling at creation for all new object types. By doing this, we ensure that data is classified correctly from the very beginning, strengthening our data protection and compliance efforts right out of the gate. Another key step is controlling resource creation. We should disable or require approval for new resources where the risk outweighs the potential value. This helps prevent the introduction of unapproved or risky resources and keeps everything aligned with our governance standards. We also need to compare tenant settings against our governance baseline. This comparison helps us identify any risky self-service features or deviations from our policies, so we know exactly where to focus our attention. Finally, conducting a thorough tenant settings audit is essential. Documenting Fabric-specific toggles gives us a clear picture of current configurations, providing a solid foundation for identifying potential risks and ensuring our environment stays secure and compliant. Let's take a closer look at the reality facing administrators today. When managing Microsoft Fabric, you're dealing with multiple distinct services, each with its own set of rules and governance needs. Think about it: lakehouses, data warehouses, pipelines, notebooks, and Power BI, all of these have unique operational demands. Managing them together often feels like juggling 5 different products at once, which naturally increases the complexity. This complexity can lead to gaps in governance, making it harder to ensure everything remains secure and compliant. It's a stark contrast to what Microsoft Fabric promises. The platform is marketed as a unified analytics solution, aiming to integrate these various tools and services into one seamless platform. The idea is to simplify data management and analytics, reducing the burden on administrators. Ideally, unified analytics should mean less complexity and better governance, providing a smooth experience for both users and administrators. But the reality sometimes feels quite different, what we call the unified headaches. It's important to recognize that while the goal is to create a unified platform, managing all these components can still be quite challenging, and that's what we're here to address. Now, let's talk about building administrative unification and navigating the complexity of Microsoft Fabric administration. One key aspect is creating runbooks for cross-service incidents. These are detailed guides that specify who gets paged and where to start troubleshooting when something goes wrong. Runbooks are essential because they provide clear, step-by-step instructions for handling emergencies, ensuring everyone knows their role. This helps us respond swiftly and coordinate our efforts effectively, minimizing downtime and disruption. Next, we want to centralize logs and metrics into a single reporting store, or SIEM. Having all data in one place simplifies monitoring and gives us better visibility across different services. It allows us to quickly identify issues and resolve them faster, keeping the system healthy overall. Moving on, deploying Workspace and domain templates is another important step. These templates help enforce a consistent structure for organizing resources, reducing chaos, and making management easier. They also ensure we adhere to organizational policies, maintaining order as we scale. Finally, applying shared governance principles across all Fabric surfaces is crucial. This means establishing guidelines that ensure consistency and alignment across various administrative domains. By doing so, we create a unified, effective approach to resource management that supports our overall goal of a streamlined, well-governed environment. All right, as we wrap up, I want to emphasize that Fabric's complexity is something we need to accept as inherent. Instead of searching for an easy button, it's more effective to focus on managing the noise, those unnecessary complications, so our teams can navigate challenges more effectively. Adopting this mindset helps us stay grounded and prepared. Next, it's crucial to think about mapping capacity directly to our most critical workloads. By setting up alerts to monitor usage, we can prevent unexpected financial surprises and ensure our resources are aligned with what truly matters to the organization. This proactive approach keeps us in control. Another key point is creating a structured workspace taxonomy using templates. Enforcing this structure helps maintain order amid the chaos, promoting consistency and reducing management noise, which makes everything more manageable. Finally, given how complex Fabric can get, we need to be proactive. Regularly auditing tenant defaults allows us to identify risky self-service toggles. Locking down these toggles ensures a disciplined, controlled approach to managing our environment, which ultimately helps us avoid pitfalls and maintain stability. Let's explore some additional resources to deepen our understanding of managing Microsoft Fabric. First, I recommend checking out the M365 Show podcasts on Apple Podcasts. They feature expert discussions and practical tips that are incredibly valuable for sharpening your admin skills, especially as the Fabric landscape continues to evolve. You can access the podcast directly through this link, https://podcasts, apple.com/a/podcast/M365 Show with Mirko Peters Microsoft 360 5 digital/ID 1,810,175,174. If you prefer listening on Spotify, they also have the same insightful content available here. https://open spotify.com/show/7bp6oxp6e1wn1 snags ah8. These podcasts are a great way to stay informed with industry insights from professionals who are actively working with Microsoft Fabric. Additionally, for those who want a more in-depth understanding, there's a comprehensive article on managing Fabric domains. It walks through the complexities and offers detailed guidance to help you manage your environment more effectively. You can read it here, https://M365 show/p/domains in Fabric easier than it. Overall, these resources, podcasts, and articles are excellent tools to enhance your skills and ensure you're prepared to handle the evolving challenges of Microsoft Fabric administration.